Hello, good night. Angie, welcome. We will wait a little bit until a lot of you guys getting connected. Sorry, because now I am uh, confused about the timing, so I forget it that. Hello, good
Hello.
night. That Angie, Bolivia and Colombia has like different time, so I was like so relaxed, and then I figure out that I have like this time changing. I was so secure that we have the same time. How are you, Angie? Can you hear me? Hello.
Hello, Miss.
Hello, hello. We will wait a little bit until your colleague getting connected.
Okay, it's perfect. No problem
Oh,
for me.
give me a second. Ah, thank you.
Bless you, Miss. Hello, Miss.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. And you? What happened
Yes.
with the other partners?
I don't have an idea, but I will give them time because I sent the link quite late. So we will wait a little bit and we will finish a little bit late also. Now it's like 11. We will give them like 5 minutes more
Yes.
if it's not a problem for you. I was
No.
so secure that Colombia and Bolivia that we had the same time. So I was like so relaxed, like yes, I start lesson in 1 hour. And then when she sent the like we will have lesson today, I was like Bolivian time in Google. I was like, oh, I have my lesson now. Yeah, I am in Colombia actually. I arrived
Yes.
this
Colombia
morning.
is the 7 p.m.
Yeah, actually, I have my computer with my Bolivian time, but my phone with my Colombian. No, wait.
Ah.
Here is seven with 12 minutes in Colombia.
Mm,
What time is in Ecuador? Same
it's the
time?
same.
No.
It's the same.
Okay.
It's different
Yeah.
with the country of Bolivia. Yes.
Yeah, because it's down after the Equatorian line. Yeah. I am 1 hour younger than the other humans.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, because when I cross, I like win to the life this hour.
Do you mix the Colombia
Did
or
you what?
no? Mix extrañar.
Yes,
Miss,
I miss it.
miss,
Yeah,
miss.
I miss so much. Yeah, to my family also, but it's like like not really nothing changed in my life. Like my family is here, like my my room was completely the same, and it's like if I am traveling in time, it feels like that. Mhm. It's like quite weird feeling because I am kind of missing my life traveling, but I also love the comfort that I have at home. Like I have my double bed, and it's just like I am relaxed. I don't have to book in hostels or traveling in buses. It's like I stop it. It's a pause. So it feels so amazing. I feel like so good. And I guess that we will start. ¿Qué pasa? Qué raro, qué raro. Hola, buenas noches. Espérame que me están hablando por el chat. Si no tenemos clase, creo que el Zoom no les cargó. Qué raro, se envió un montón de ocurrencias, un montón de repeticiones. Mañana me toca configurar eso.
Oh, sí.
No sé por qué. Creo que vamos a tener clase personalizada, porque según esto,
For me, don't have problem.
dame un segundo. Yeah. Okay, so we will wait until she connects and then we will start. We have to do like a couple of things tonight. I need that, like keep in mind that tomorrow you have to send me the essay. So if you want, we can correct a little bit because that will be like our final exam. So I want to check or maybe give you some ideas. Then I want that we do like an interactive activity about reading. I want to check your skills. And Deandra, good night. How are you? Welcome. Hello, hello. Welcome. How are you? How are you about your surgery? How do you feel? I can hear you. Please turn on your microphone.
Hello. Hello,
Hello,
teacher.
good night.
Sorry.
Hello, Leandra.
Hello. Sounds so.
How are you?
Sounds so. I don't feel very well yet, but better now.
Yeah, but you are okay for come to the lesson. If you can come, no worries at all.
No, I'm going to
Like a
listen.
medical excuse. Okay, as you didn't come the last sessions, it's so important that I will send you right now a topic, and I need that you choose one
Mhm.
for write an essay. But I will give you, of course, if you want 1 week, because that was more or less the time that your colleagues has. And the idea is that you do one page. I will send you a voice note, like telling you all the uh, okay, all the requests, and then you can have like it's just I want just a really simple essay. I want 1 page essay with type 12, and then with sorry size 12 and type whatever that you want, the one that you prefer. And I need that you create a whole argument, like general, a particular case, and the conclusion. I just send you to your WhatsApp, your personal WhatsApp, the topic that you can choose, and drop me a message about your health situation because I know that are you sick, and for me it's like I'm not so unfair. Okay, but the others
Okay.
have to send this tomorrow. Just that was the activity that we had the
Okay.
last week.
Mhm.
Okay,
And I
perfect.
didn't see the last class yet,
Yeah,
so
no worries, no worries.
only on
That is
Saturday I went out the hospital and I didn't see nothing yet.
yeah, no
So
worries, no worries. I completely
um,
understand. So just if you have any questions, let me know and drop me a message about when do you want to present it because you are the only
mhm.
one that can understand how do you feel with your process, like with your health issues. Daniel, welcome. How are you?
Hi,
Thank
Darlene.
you.
How is everything
Hi.
going? Welcome,
Everything is
welcome.
good. Sorry
Perfect.
for the hour.
No, no worries. All of us arrived late, so nothing happens. I was
Okay, thank
confused
you.
about the time. I forget completely that Colombia has a different time than Bolivia. So I come like a few minutes later. So sorry for that also. Today we will have like different activities. So the first one, we will finish the topic about environmental law. Then we will solve some activities, and I will show you one interactive platform where you can improve a lot of your English, like study phrasal verbs, and depending, for example, for international exams like TOEFL or IELTS, I really like using it, but also have like really interesting specific topics. In these cases, we will use environmental law issues and environment. So we will have some specific vocabulary that we need to study if we want to refer into a problem. The idea is that we do like share it a room, and we can read it like together, and then we will do like some corrections if necessary, but I want to check your reading skills, so I need that by the end of the class you be so focused on it. And also, Daniel, I want to ask you that you please turn on your camera, because remember that it is necessary. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the last session we were talking, or we were discussing about environmental law, right? Let me check if I can put it here. Yeah, so this was the last thing that we saw. Basically, this is the list that I just sent you, Deandra. Is like a lot of environmental issues. The idea is that you choose the one that you prefer, but also exists a lesson on YouTube that reminds me that I send it tonight, because takes long, and I want that you saw it complete for tomorrow, or just the maximum that you can. And it's an
Okay.
exposition from Yale University, where it's like the whole course online about the principles and all the strategies that we can implement in environmental law. And it's quite old because it's from 2010, but it's so complete, and it's so real, you know. You feel like in the master class. So I want that you check it. I want that you feel um, connected with this professor, and that you can take, and if you have some questions, we will discuss it tomorrow in a speaking session. But this was the last thing that we saw. So we have different problems that is just a couple of hundreds or millions that we have as a society. But we have air pollution, water quality, food safety, loss of biodiversity, climate change, access to minerals, and new developments. You can choose your favorite, but the others, don't forget that you have to send it tomorrow night. If you want to share, if you maybe write something until now, and if you want to share it here in the session, we can like correct it or give you some ideas like in the shared session. But if you prefer like send it tomorrow night, just upon you. And this one is the last one that was like copy here. Chemical products in the environment. And here we can refer it to the water, to the air, but also in all the products that we have contact with, like um, plastic and minerals, like any kind of product that can affect us, even in our skin or inside of us. And we will find it everywhere, basically. Also in everything that we consume. For example, one topic here that is connected, it's random but it's connected, is the studies that have been used for like demonstrating Yale University in different scenarios about how many plastic, how much plastic we consume in like in sodas or in any kind of products that be on plastic bottles or um, plastic bags, you know, like fries and yeah, like all this fast food, and how these microparticles comes into the food, you know, because of just being there, right? So this topic is really interesting because this is so connected with health systems and how we as lawyers should get like more compromise in public policies that we can apply to these huge multinationals. And also, I don't know if you listen about the social responsibility that has, now that I'm drinking it, uh, Coke in the contamination or in the worldwide contamination, because this is one of the most successful companies in the history, but they are not really compromised with the greenhouse effect that they are producing it. Do you know what it means, greenhouse effect? We saw it in our last sessions. I can't remember it. If we didn't saw it, we can. I guess that I don't know. You know that one means like greenhouse effects. Son los gases de efecto invernadero. Ok. Hay alguien aquí. Tengo como retorno. ¿Ustedes me escuchan bien? Aló, aló, aló.
Sí, mi, se la escucha bien.
Okay, so it's like a lot of studies and a lot of requirements for non-governmental organizations that ask to the governments that control the producing of these materials and the use, that promotes that some of their new products be constituted by recycled plastic or just a percentage of it as a public policy, and they can like sell the products in the country. Of course, that is really hard that a government can claim for protect their citizens and like put out one of these multinationals, but they can have incidents, they can influence this kind of materials uses. And other thing, I don't know in your countries, in Colombia, for example, one of the most successful companies are related with recycling. They are starting with these ecological blocks. You listen that, like these plastic bottles that they put it with a lot of plastic that the families consumes, and then they start to build houses or eco houses with this. This is something that is starting in Colombia, like with a lot of power. They are using all these uh, products or these materials that are never used in this way for create a new eco work. And this is a public policy. So inside of all these ideas that I'm just giving you and all these problematics that we can find, we should start to use our invention, and if we want to work in public sector, try to propose some uses and that helps with all the creation of new opportunities for people that need it. Okay, we have some key questions. I guess that we saw that. I guess that we finished this last session. Yeah, we saw it. We saw this part. So Diandra, you can find this on the YouTube channel when you saw the session that you missed. But basically here we can find hello, good night, welcome, Anne. Here we can find basically some of the aspects or areas where we can work for the government that is related in an indirect way with the environmental law. So for example, level of government appropriate the problem. How really the government make responsible about what is happening on it. This is like a huge problematic that depends of the country. So for example, in Brazil, we have these agribusinesses that are affecting like hundreds of families, but also are benefit some people that have like a lot of money and power on the country, politicians and etc. So how maybe the government can be involved in the same problem is also a question that needs to be solved for a neutral agent. Then the branch of government to establish law. Tell me, Anne.
Hi, teacher. How are you? I am a cell phone now. I'm getting home and I connect from my computer. Please give me 5 minutes.
Yeah, no worries. I completely understand. No worries. Just connect when you can, but don't forget turn on your camera when you do
Yes.
that. Perfect.
Thank you.
So no worries. Back on it, branch of government to establish law is that the government needs to have a position, and depending of the government and depending of the one, like the governmental plan. I don't know how it's called in your countries, but in Colombia it's called like that. They will decide at the beginning, before elections, they plan how they will invest the money that they have, like monthly or per year, for develop all the promise that they do in campaign, right? So here it's so important because depending of the interest of the government, some development can be really against of nature, and we need to make control to this kind of law, right? So it can be like a citizen control, but also here we have some skills or some tools that belongs to the constitutional law, and we can discuss and we can have doubts about the law that the president are promoting in the Congress. So these tools, estas herramientas, can change depending of the country. Can be so different in Paraguay, in Ecuador, or in Bolivia. But exists this burden of law. And also they need lawyers involved. Then we have the access to data, to confidential issues. That was the projects, the example of the projects. I'm just trying to put the underlying context. But in Colombia, for example, a lot of projects that are trying to implement are covered by confidential or confidential policies. Meanwhile, they are trying to allow it. And this happens a lot of with indigenous communities because they want to implement some projects that at some point will affect them, even when apparently will benefit them. That is the case. I was telling you the example about my ex-president, that they were trying to create a resort in a refugee. Of course, that is amazing because it's just mountains in front of the ocean. But all these different ideas that I'm showing you tonight, all these are involved in environmental law. Then we have the preemption, that is del derecho preferente de compra, y que and we can analyze it or we can show it in products that belongs, or the most important company or the main company that manage this business is in each country belongs to the government. So the case of Bolivia is the gas, the oil, or for example, here in Colombia, they have some oil extractions that belongs to the government or that be mixed with private sector, right? And they can apply always this prescription, and is how this paper or this role of the government can allow them to have complete control if they want it. You know, they should be preferred. They might be preferred against any kind of private interest. And the administrative discretion is these really sensitive topics like pesticides in food, or these transgenic uses for different fruits or vegetables that exist and is happening in a lot of countries in South America. But all this information are covered by confidential and this administrative discretion. And we were discussing in or the last week session about what is the difference then between confidentiality and discretion. And we finish or we conclude that this administrative discretion is so related with the affectation that our citizens can have, right? The confidentiality always affects like the parties that are contract, that have the contract or have the business. But the administrative discretions exist for protect the government of strikes or like different ways of protests that the citizens of a country can have against the government for their own public policies agreed. Okay. Here is like completely new. I guess that we can't arrive to this part because our time were over. So precedents and interpretations, right? Some consequences and risks of every decision, right? So research prices. Who tell me what means research?
Antecedentes, precedentes.
Una más específica. If I told you guys like, oh, I am in a researching process, what I am doing? Investigación. Investigación. Research. Okay. And if we want to talk about investigations in an academic forum or in academical scenario, we will call it research. I am doing research. I'm a researcher, right? So an investigador. And it's so used for academic world. So we have some consequences and risks of every decision. But of course, that depending of the activity that we are managing in any country, we can have different levels, right? So low, medium, and high risk. And depending of these different scenarios, the government can take some measures, but also the agencies can take, for example, in the most extreme ones, they can, I need, nos vamos a meter con un poquito de contratación estatal. So we will start to talk about contracts with the states, right? So when we are in an emergency situation, remember that we can take the decision as a nation or as a government, as a state. We can take the decision to start a litigation process, and we can start to not litigation is we can start like a market proceeding, but also a licitation process. Me cruzaron las palabras. Que son los procesos de licitación. I'm not sure it means the same in your countries, so you need to confirm, but in Colombia, the licitation process exists for create a scenario where all the businesses can make an offer to the state with different conditions that the state, of course, published, and then offers the prices and the conditions for create the business. And then depending of, if you want to call it like corruption, but basically in an objective way, they need to decide which one have like improved the profit and have more benefit for the project. So in these cases of emergency, I was telling you about the risks, the level of risks. In emergency process or in emergency situations, we will imagine an inundation or something that happens because of causes of nature. The government can skip this step about create the whole licitation process, right? Or this market world. They can skip it and they just can decide who will do it. And for that reason, like attack this corruption in these cases is really hard because they can sustain that was just for the emergency state that they had in a certain moment. But when also we need to discuss what are the consequences of risk of every decision, I mean, it's so related with the mine sector, with mineral sector, and with the extraction sector, because they have a lot of step by step in their manuals that will confirm and they will try to ratify all the agreements that they create with the government, but also that the government that try to protect the international standards. For example, the human rights of indigenous communities, the human rights or the access to water, the access to natural resources that every citizen in the country has. So if an extractions of gold affect the contamination or the mercury levels in the water, so they can just do a request against the government and the government will need create an indemnization. But also some of the damages that has a community can't be solved with money. So the government needs to create a whole entire system, for example, for give them access to pure water, right? And this is completely expensive, but also is the consequences for don't create a really research and hard research process. And in all these esto es súper importante, las etapas contractuales, pre-contractual, contractual, and post-contractual scenarios, we have to do a really hard research, but needs to be so focused in prevent the damages that we can get in the future. And this is connected with one of the most important principles in environmental law that is called, I will put it in your chat. Precautionary law. Todo el derecho o toda la ley que se desprende del derecho como preventivo, de la evitación de estos desastres. It's also called in some countries that are so advanced in these environmental issues as precautionary principle. Principle, I cannot type it. Principle. Precautionary principle. If you want to put this in your essay, I would be so happy that this is one of the most important topics. Also, one of the other international principles, now that I am talking about this topic, is who damage pays. Give me a second, I need me acuerdo, el que contamina paga, me acuerdo muchísimo en su versión en español, pero en inglés quiero confirmar, regálenme un segundo. Aquí le preguntamos al oráculos. No sé si es who damage pays principle. And exist a lot of treaties polluter pays. Miren la diferencia. Esta es la manera polluter pays. Y luego tenemos polluter pays. Who damage the environment pays. So these two principles are so connected. If we don't have all the precautionary rules for do an extraction, that is the example that we are taking right now, we have the consequences. And the consequence in the case of contamination of water is polluter pays. Who create the contamination needs to pay all the indemnization to any kind of damage that they create. But some of the damages, you cannot take it like instantly. If you consume contaminated water, of course that you can have bad belly for a couple of days. ¿Saben qué es bad belly, cierto? Mal de pancita. Bad belly. You can have a bad belly for a couple of days, but the most extreme consequences of cancer or the other really chronic illness can be the consequence of consuming contaminated water for years and with different levels of minerals on the water. And then it's really hard that you find an indemnification because the time's passed by. Like 40 years later, you cannot go in against to the country because all the contractual responsibility are over. Okay. Why so important that we have in our minds the precedents and the interpretation? Because anytime that we need to apply one of these principles, like to trying to make that some contract worth it or try to apply one of them, we need to check what are this. I don't know how it's created the precedent in your countries, but in my country, the president is created by three decisions taken in the same road. And one time that change one, then the whole line is completely moving in the whole direction. But one time that we have three decisions in the same way, we create the precedent. And with the precedent, it's not necessary that we like ask for that protection. We just need to suggest them that apply for equity the same principles or the same laws that were applied in the session that you will relate in the request or in the lawsuit. Okay. When we have the dynamic burden of proof, who tell me what means that? We saw it a couple of times in different topics in civil law, and I guess that in commercial law we saw it. What means dynamic? In tort law we saw it. What means dynamic burden of proof? ¿Están dormidos, bebés? ¿Se aburrieron? Diandra parece que estuviera dormida desde mi... Creo que es el dolor.
No, teacher, I'm listening to you.
Ok. Su película entiendo que estás enfermita. La única que se puede dormir es Diandra. Angie y Daniel no se pueden dormir. Angie y Daniel, cuéntenme, ¿qué significa
Yes.
dynamic burden of proof?
I'm here. What, teacher? Can you repeat, please?
What means dynamic burden of proof? Dynamic burden of proof. Están aquí. Significa la carga dinámica de la prueba. Lo hemos visto ya varias veces. No me hagan llorar. Dynamic burden of proof. And in these kind of processes that are litigation and really hard litigations, because in the sum of, I guess that the 80% of the whole cases that are related, like always finished in international court. Because the contamination problems or the affectation to human rights are so deep and are so important. And the most of the times we have these scenarios where the government, the multinational or the private sector, and then the victims. But also in some scenarios, the government and the private sector belongs to the same. So the non-governmental organizations come to help the victims of each case, okay? So the most important thing in a case, as we know, is the evidence. What you can prove in a process, what you can prove in a litigation scenario. Okay, we will continue with the example of contamination in the water, right? In this case, we will imagine that 10 years later, we'll start to find cancer in the whole population, right? Different types of cancer, but that is our proof. And what in this case, if I need to go in against to the government under this scenario, what is the most important proof that you believe that we need to use for explain that all these people has cancer? Cuéntenme.
And what the scenario, teacher?
In the scenario where I am trying to pretend that the government give indemnization to the whole population, because for all the like contamination of water, they have cancer, right? This contamination belongs, of course, an extraction factory, for example.
I think the hardest proof of these kind of cases are the people who have these problems or these kind of hurts, because the because the view of the problem and the and I think the proof, as the proof as in this kind of in this kind of how do you say, in this kind of cases are the damages who makes who how do you say, los daños que ocasionan estos daños ambientales.
Yeah, like the damages that are consequences for this environmental. You can say like in this context, you can say like damages and the environmental affectations, environmental pollution, environmental contamination. Depends. All are allowed. Yes, perfect.
Okay.
I catch your point, but how do you prove that? Perfect. We will take your idea. How do you prove the damages and the citizens?
You have to call these people who have these damages and make questions with the like if it's a water pollution, you can take a question for the people as like how long time do you take a water, and if you have a some, how do you say, enfermedad.
Illness. Illness.
I'm sorry, what?
Illness.
Illness.
Mhm.
And if you take this water that time ago, why do you don't illness before?
So all these
So
people under perfect, but with all these people under which qualification that comes to you? As a witness? How do you use them as a proof? We are talking about proofs. How you will take it into your process? As a witnesses?
yes, yes.
Okay, who gives me more? Perfect. Now see how you have the answer, but I need that you be like more radical. Gali, we will take in these cases the most important proof that we got is that they are our witnesses. Perfect. So now I need like you conclude better, but it's perfect all that you said. Now Diandra, what says Diandra? What says Angie?
I think, in my opinion, the most important proof in this case are the, ¿cómo voy a decir? Certificado de una junta médica, for
So
example.
you can say the report or the medical report or the official of like the depende. Si quieres decir, por ejemplo, el certificado legal, el certificado de una junta médica, el certificado de los médicos, is like the physician official report. El reporte
Official.
médico oficial.
Yes.
Physician
This
official report.
official medical official report and for ¿cómo voy a decir? Estudios laboratoriales, for example, del agua and or
Laboratory studies.
laboratory studies. I think there are the most important proof in these cases.
Perfect.
And
now we will analyze this.
For example, in Paraguay was condenado. I'm sorry, teacher. I'm not so good.
Yeah, no worries. The Paraguay has
I'm going to try to tell you. And Paraguay fue condenado. ¿Cómo se dice? Condenado.
Mira, esto es muy importante porque nosotros no hablamos como si estuviéramos hablando de un particular. Si nosotros estamos hablando de un país, estamos hablando sí o sí de responsabilidad internacional de los estados. Exacto. So, like, we need to change everything. Paraguay was called or was named or was like Paraguay was international and responsible of the damages of. So Paraguay es internacionalmente responsable de los daños causados en,
Mhm.
right? Not is
Okay.
just like Diandra was guilty in this case, que fue como si
Yes.
fuera una persona o una entidad o una empresa. Cuando hablamos de los estados, inmediatamente pasamos a derecho internacional y tenemos que mencionar la responsabilidad internacional de los estados. Eso es muy importante.
Sí. Porque a eso quería llegar. Que I'm going to tell in Spanish because I can't tell
No,
you.
you can do it
Okay.
in English.
Okay. Paraguay fue condenado por la Corte por la Corte Iberoamericana de Derechos Humanos en una causa de por intoxicación de agrotóxicos. Fue una causa muy sonada aquí en Paraguay porque no se investigó justamente de la manera que debería ser. Entonces, estas víctimas, estos campesinos que eran vecinos de un sojal, de un campo de plantación de soja, ellos fueron intoxicados con los agrotóxicos y varios murieron y nunca se investigó como debería ser. Luego, entonces, el Estado paraguayo fue condenado a indemnizarle a estas personas por su irresponsable manejo del caso.
Ok, súper. Bueno,
Esa es lo que quería
perfecto.
cortar.
Ahora esto lo vas a hacer en inglés.
Ujú.
Te escucho. Vamos a
Ay,
corregir,
ok.
porque hay muchas cosas que podemos aprender de tu intervención. O sea, en vocabulario.
Yes.
So
Help
let's
me,
do it
teacher,
together.
please.
I am here for correct
Yes, help
or
me,
try to help.
please. Paraguay was ay, como dijiste,
Internacional. ¿Cómo se diría
inter,
internacional?
it was international,
Internationally responsible.
internationally responsible
For what?
for agrotoxic contamination of
Pesticide. Pesticide.
pesticides. Okay.
Ujú.
Pesticides
Contamination.
contamination of campesinos, ¿cómo sería? ¿Cómo era? Farm
Okay, farmers.
people, farm
Farmers.
people,
Farmers.
farmer, and for the of the I don't remember the word nosotros dimos ¿verdad? Por la Corte Iberoamericana de Derechos Humanos.
Inter-American Court
Inter-American Court
Inter-American
of
Court of Human Rights. Perfect. Why? Where they were? What? Mi lengua.
No,
Why they were declared international responsible of these damages? Why?
because they don't, they digo yo ahora, for the ministerio, the public minister, and don't do a good investigation of in this case. So the victim, no se dice víctimas ahora, victims.
The victim?
The other victims or the mom of the they le denunciaron, they denounced they for the poor investigation.
Okay. They sued them. Los demandaron. O
Mhm.
los sued them. You también puedes decir sued or los sued them. Both are correct. Okay. Perfect. Now we will finish. I will create the conclusion, taking Daniel and Diandra ideas. And Angie, do you want to share something? Like, what did you notice in
Okay,
this
Miss.
scenario?
I consider that when the companies buy the electric vehicles, it's important check the requirements for the electric vehicles have the principal requirements for avoid environmental contamination
Mhm.
is my case. In Ecuador, exists the company when buy this vehicle, this electric vehicle.
Mhm.
This vehicle don't have the principles requirements for this problem.
Yeah, but I want to know, what do you mean with this kind of example? Do you refer to the vehicles that have been used for the extraction, or if we are talking about water contamination, I cannot connect it like vehicles with
Okay,
water. We are talking about water contamination. What do you think that would be one of the most important proofs that you need to put in the case for make the state or the company responsible? We have these physician's official reports that tell us Diandra, and we have all the witnesses that tell us Daniel. What other proofs do you think that is important to support the lawsuit case that we are trying to analyze in this example?
the research for this product.
Yeah, develop your idea.
Mm, okay. I don't know.
Vamos, vamos, vamos.
Well,
Estamos acá para soltarnos.
okay. The vehicle. A ver. Uh, when how do you prove this requirement? How do you prove this vehicle have principles requirements? Is my problematic.
Yeah, but I need that you focus in my problematic. If we are talking about water contamination, the most important, all of course, that
The
the
contamination,
hola,
the principal
the
contamination is
water,
the air
water,
pollution. No,
no,
it's
no,
the
no,
air pollution in this case.
water, water,
Okay,
contaminación en agua. Es el ejemplo que estamos tomando. Pueden ser miles de factores contaminantes, pero en este ejemplo que estamos analizando, vamos a tomar el agua contaminada de una extracción. Water
okay.
contamination. What is the most important proof in this case?
Mm, the how the companies no the company made the extraction oil.
Perfect. So now we will have here some.
How do you say derrame or derrame? The
Mm,
companies dedicate of the
Now you are putting like it's oil, but we can
that.
have water contamination for different kind of sources. But when you
Mhm.
have these kind of scenarios, we call it like an accident, right? Because it's an accident. So we have like accidentally we have oil in the water just because it was a deme un segundo, ¿cómo se dice esto? Se me traba la lengua. Aquí se dice negligence.
Negligence,
Fue
yes.
un tipo de negligencia. So now I want to do the conclusion because our time is almost over and I need to give the platform that I told you at the beginning. So remember that we are talking about dynamic burden and proofs. This is one of the meetings that, depending of the part that you are in the process, depending if you are representing the victims in a non-governmental organization, depending if you are working for the government for defending them in international scenario, as the example of Paraguay that gave us Diandra, or depending if we are working for the private sector, we need to analyze which kind of proof we need to present, and we need to give the dynamic burden of proofs. The dynamic burden of proof is like 70% of the cases so connected with the rest of the victims, because try to protect them of different situations where the government or the multinational or the private sector, the factory or the business can have, because of economical position, a different scenario where will be easiest for them have the proof. So for example, in the case of Daniel told us the witness. For who is easy easiest take the witness to the case? Of course, that for the victim. For Diandra, you told us about the physician official reports. Will be easier for the government find the specialized people that demonstrate that all the cancer is consequence of the contamination in the water. And for Angie, of course, that depending of the case, but in our hypothetical scenario, the dynamic burden of proof will belong to the government or to the business because they can have the specialized people that proves that the water is contaminated because for all the process that has this kind of company. Of course, that if we need to be neutral, the victims can ask or can request that the government find that some international and specialized company that proves this contamination scenario. So when we have these kind of meetings and we create the litigation strategy, that is basically the meeting that we just got, and is from different points of view, because in our case, for him, for minds things better than one, we try to analyze different points of view to cover different aspects that need to be proved. And we need to check from the beginning until the end what kind of things we really need to prove and how we will do it. We need to prove that they have illness in their bodies. How we will do it? Of course, that for or cross the witnesses, because they can ask and they can answer, like the company or the non-governmental organization can ask them what are the feelings, what are the consequences of how they feel. But when we are talking of proofs, the way of prove it, of course, that is by the physician official report, and how in a medical way we can prove that they have a really deep affectation and that is for the minerals or for the contamination that is on water, right? So we need to create we need to create the connection between the cause and the consequence. What is the cause? That the water have some heavy metals. What is the consequence? That now my client has cancer in their belly, right? And also the expertise that can give us, or the point of view for an expert that can give us, um, in this case, a chemical expert from other country or from other neutral organization that comes as a witness with proofs, with laboratory tests, will show us the level of contamination. And this is an objective proof. If the level is like under the national standards, we don't have any issue. Maybe we can lose the case. But if it's over the international standards, we win it. And this dynamic burden of the proof is so important because the industry wants that the government prove the damages. And that, in the most of the cases, is so expensive. And the government can't allow them to invest a lot of money or big amounts of money for create the proofs in a process and try to lawsuit them and demonstrate damages. All the scientific analysis, fight with lawyers, and all the strategies, investment, expenses, all the all the energy that you need to invest as a lawyer is be compensated with money. And this kind of multinationals and private sector always try to find the best lawyers in the country or in the continent for represent their interests. So always from the government and from no-governmental organizations or victims, it's really hard to fight in a legal forum with complete experts and best lawyers that belongs to the best law firms in the continent or in the world. That is what happened with, for example, here we have this case with a Canadian company, and they come with their lawyers. So it's really hard that the lawyers in Colombia fight with them, even because they didn't speak English. So it's like really hard to find a balance in these kind of cases. I will give me a second, please, Daniel, and I will give you the word because then I will lose my idea. So the legal expertise of the defenders is the key in these kind of cases. If we can have the experience, if we can have all the tools for defend the victims or to represent the non-governmental organization. This one of cases is commonly winned by these companies because of the legal team that they have behind them and that support them because they have the money for doing it. Now, Daniel, tell us, what do you think about? What do you want to share with us?
Yeah, I wanted to say the most of cases that the state Ecuador has in these environmental problems with the multinationals, the most of cases are won by the multinationals because they have the resources to pay the best lawyers in the region. I think that, and that that cases have a repercussion here because these cases have uh, a very big media, right? And it makes history here because in how do you say Amazonia,
Amazon, Amazon, or
in the
Amazon
Amazon,
region.
in the
Mhm.
yeah, in the Amazon region with the petroleum companies, we lost we lost two cases with Chevron on the international courts, and it cost a lot of money of the arcs of Ecuador, and it makes an emblematic cases here
Because
because we
creates
have everything
precedent.
to win the or sorry to won the, because we have a lot of proofs here, and I think I think the less uh, professional things of the lawyers from Ecuador as the how do you say the causa
Cost,
are the cause for lost the cases,
yeah. And
and it is really hard because if you won or you want to win one of these cases, you will have a lot of money first and a lot of good reputation here.
reputation, yeah, so yeah. But everything that you say from social media support and what you said about the reputation and also as a president is so important because lose a case in this scenario that you show us means that other multinational that has some similar scenario that the ones that just lose the case will ask for equity in similar cases. That means that the last is not just about this case. That means the uh, some couple of generations face the consequences of that decision because they will ask that all the parameters, principles, or law in an international way be applied to them for equity. So always the best lawyers are with them. So it's really hard, and this is an environmental problem. So it's important that we analyze and we understand it. As your time is completely over, I will send you the platform and you will need to check it alone when you have time. I will put it in the WhatsApp group, but also I will put it in the chat because maybe some of you guys are on the computer and it will be easier to come. And it's like the English Cup, you can also prepare your international exams. They have like a lot of forums and topics, and these environmental vocab are so specific and it's so useful. This is not homework. I just giving you the tool. If you want to use it, it's all of you guys. But it's really good that you give a check. Maybe some, if you are interested in this topic, will be good for you. I will send you right now to the WhatsApp group when I found I will send you this link, but also in a couple of minutes, I will send you the session, the live session of Yale University with these environmental problems, which I want that please you take the time to see it. For that reason, I am sending this tonight because I want that you maybe listen it while you are doing some work or before sleep, and that you listen as much as you can. The whole session is like really long, but if you can listen 20 minutes, will be so useful for our speaking session of tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming to this session, and I will please ask you that you fill the survey that now is completely open. Let me know if you can see it or if we are having some issues. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, teacher.
I
Good
will see
night.
you
Good night,
tomorrow.
everyone.
Good night.
Bye. See you
As soon
tomorrow.
as you finish, you are completely free. Sleep and rest.
Bye, guys. Don't, teacher.
Bye. 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 Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks to you. Bye. 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 Hmm? Alice.